With all of capitalism's hustle and bustle having arrived at the most wonderful time of the year, this episode will teach you how to do it differently in a way that goes counter to supremacy. Welcome to the Fierce Authenticity Podcast, where we're illuminating and dismantling all of the ways supremacy culture has impacted our relationships with ourselves, with Source, and with others. Not just the overt ways, like racism, sexism, ageism, alcoholism, and all the other isms, but also the sneaky, cunning ways you wouldn't have thought of, like perfectionism, imposter syndrome, judgment, burnout, the not enoughs, and the hustle to achieve. I'm your hostess, Sharani M. Batuk, and I'm a relationship therapist, leadership development consultant, and author of the book series, Fierce Authenticity. Whether you're a returning listener or you're new here, I want to extend a very warm welcome to you and invite you to connect with me through the Fierce Authenticity newsletter community. If you're ready to rise above an inherited systematic invasion rooted in fear and lack so that you can calm and refocus those energies towards reclaiming a fiercely authentic personal relationship grounded in an abundance and love that is so radiant all your other relationships are elevated with you, then this is the space for you. I invite you to visit www.fierceauthenticity.com/connect to join me. I'm so excited that you're here. And now let's dive in. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited that you're here. And today I know that we are right smack in the middle of holiday season. Allegedly the most wonderful time of the year. And I know that because we've been conditioned under systems of supremacy culture and capitalism and all the things that come from that for a lot of you, this may not be the most wonderful time of year. This may be a time of year where everything feels really frantic, everything feels really rushed, where it feels like there's so many pressures and all the to-dos and all the good stuff, all those good things. And so in today's episode, it's actually the start of a 3-part mini-series that I want to share with you on how to actually get through the holidays and seasons where supremacy conditioning's capitalism tells us that we have to rush, we have to hustle, we have to do for others at our own expense. And I want to offer you an alternative perspective instead. I want to offer you a perspective that allows you to actually feel this time as the most wonderful time of the year. And I want you to experience this time as a time of true love and connection and intimacy and authenticity in all of your relationships. And that's why I want to share with you first about how slowing down is actually going to get you more of what you want. You get to experience more of what you want in your life when you allow yourself to slow the fuck down. And so that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. And then next week, we're going to talk about boundaries, the holiday edition. And then the following week, we are going to address New Year's resolutions and setting goals for the new you. Haha, barf. Anyways, so coming back to today's episode, I want you to picture the scenes that you see everywhere right now, where everyone is in such a rush. You're getting constant barrage of emails letting you know what sales are happening and what discounts are available and what the hottest, latest, and greatest thing is that you should buy so that your family can be happy. And you see a lot of crowds at malls, or you see sometimes websites crashing because everyone is trying to get on and get the latest thing for their loved ones because they think that this material possession is going to get them the experience that they want. And the energy is just so frantic and so chaotic. There's so much rush, there's so much urgency, there's so much lack. LACK and scarcity in the air, because this is the time of year where we are sold every single lie and piece of BS about how we need these outside material possessions that are really only fleeting and temporary, by the way, but how we need these external things in order for us to be happy, in order for our loved ones to feel loved, in order for everyone to feel appreciated and that they matter. And since you listen to this podcast, I know that you know that that's just the crap and the lies that capitalism, which of course is born out of supremacy culture, teaches us. It is so focused on dollars, dollars, dollars. This is the time of year from quote unquote Black Friday to the new year when really it's kind of the make or break. It's the last ditch to make sales and get profits and increase your margins and all that other stuff in business. Purely capitalistic, purely dehumanizing you, me, and everyone else, and purely telling us that what we need to feel happy is something that's going to be bought. And that's not to say that we don't buy things that help us amplify our happiness. That's not to say that. But it is to say that this is a season where there is a constant barrage of messages coming to us, telling us all these things. We fall for it every time. Every time you fall for it. And even when you see and feel that this isn't right, there's something here that just, it's off. And this isn't the way that you actually want to do the holidays. You don't want to feel this chaos. You don't want to feel this rush. You don't want to feel this hype about all of the things that don't matter in life. When really, this is supposed to be the time, quote unquote, supposed to be the time that you get to slow down, where you get to rest, where you get to savor and enjoy. And I want you to pretty much visualize and picture, at least if you're in the northern hemisphere, just look outside your window. Does it look like things are out there thriving right now? Does it look like nature is in hustle and bustle and grind energy right now? Or does it look like nature is in an inward, slow, quiet, almost like this retreat energy? And now let's contrast the hustle and bustle, the craziness, the capitalistic lies. Let's juxtapose that with what you see outside your window. And of course, it might be storming. There could be a snowstorm that you're in or whatever. But for the most part, there's not flowers blooming in every tree right now. Things are not outwardly visible right now outside your window. And that's because when we allow ourselves to follow the seasons and cycles of nature, which of course has been programmed out of us due to supremacy culture, when we allow ourselves to look to nature, because remember, humans are creatures, we are animals, and we do need to abide by nature, because when we don't, we get shit like GMO'd food that is lacking nutrition and is doing us more harm and making us more ill, or we get climate change and global warming and pollution and toxic waste and unclean water and all this other good stuff. And that's what happens when humans are not working with nature, but instead are working against nature. So I want you to think about what might happen if you were to allow yourself to follow what nature's rhythm was. What if you were to give yourself permission to slow down, to be more internally focused, to turn towards self, to see what you need or what your heart wants to share with your loved ones, as opposed to what corporate and big business and consumerism and capitalism tell you that you need. Yeah. Pausing right there to really let yourself feel that, to feel the shift of being so pulled in and sucked in by the hustle, the bustle, the chaos that's happening out there. And instead turning to nature and giving yourself the permission to turn inward. And when you allow yourself to do that, what ends up happening is whatever you do decide to go out and buy, or whomever you do choose to engage with during this season, you're going to be doing it from a completely different energy and from a completely different space, rather than coming at it from that frantic energy, which continues to keep you distracted and disconnected. You get to instead do it from the energy of a peaceful presence, a groundedness, a connection with yourself, with your source, and then with others in your life. And your presence, that peaceful, calm, aligned, present presence, that is the greatest present that you can give yourself and anybody else. Because I can guarantee you that when people look back on memories, they're not going to think about, oh, in that year that I got the whatever that was hot and popular. Because that shit comes and goes. What they're going to remember is your presence, your energy, your participation, how you approached your loved ones and the season in general. That's what people are going to remember. It makes me think of a funny story, actually. I'm flashing back to my childhood, and yes, this does have to do with some of the things that were under the tree, but greater than that was actually the games that we played. So every year growing up, my mom would buy us Barbies. She had two daughters, me and my sister, and there were always Barbies under the tree. And my sister and I, every year, would sneak under that tree and we would feel the boxes. Like, yep, confirming this box feels like a Barbie. Oh, I don't know. This box doesn't feel like a Barbie. Oh, how about this box? What does this box feel like? I mean, that's what we did. And that's what I remember. I don't remember what any of those freaking Barbies looked like. I have no recollection of them whatsoever. But what I remember is the experience of my sister and I sneaking under that tree, shaking those boxes, getting tactile with them, exploring them, touching them, kind of squeezing on them, and every now and again unwrapping a corner of them to confirm what's in the box. That's what I remember. And that's what the gift of presence does. Because though, sure, it was fun to get the Barbie or whatever, but what was more fun was me and my sister engaging in this game that we did year after year. Until we outgrew the Barbies, of course. And so that's what I want you to remember. That when you slow down, when you connect with yourself, when you come into alignment with you and with the divine source of something greater than you, when you look to nature for your cues, and when you move from there, that's where you'll make your greatest impact on your loved ones. And I guarantee you, it is not going to be because you got them the latest iPhone or the latest gadget or the latest whatever. And especially not if you did it from the energy of hustle and chaos and franticness and scarcity and lack. But if you take the time to connect with yourself, to slow the fuck down, to get present, then you will be able to actually think and consider, what can I gift my dad who really enjoys mountain biking and whose protective gear has been looking a little tattered lately? Or what would my mom really appreciate? My mom who works so hard for all of us, who makes the yummiest foods. What might she enjoy? What might she appreciate? Or what might my other loved one feel a lot of joy around receiving? Even if it's a freshly baked plate of cookies. And that's what I want you to remember. Right now, in the midst of the most wonderful time of the year, so that you can start to create new legacies and do something differently, something that allows for deep presence, deep connection, and true intimacy, and an opportunity for you to live in your utmost fierce authenticity. Take really good care, and we will be together again next week, where we will be talking about boundaries, the holiday edition. Speak then. I want to take a moment to honor and acknowledge the amazing support team that helps make this podcast possible for you. Starting with Diego Velázquez, our podcast editor and the talented artist who created our custom music. Ana Olvina, my wonderful assistant who creates all of our beautiful graphics and the transcript of every episode, which you can find over at www.fierceauthenticity.com. Biana Sandich, who writes our amazing show notes and does it so well that I bet you couldn't tell it wasn't me. The talented Jillian at Epoxy Studios, whose photography is our cover art and pretty much every other curated image that you see of me on social media. My husband, who puts up with me when it's 11:30 p.m. on a Sunday night and I'm like, hey babe, I gotta record a podcast episode. Like right now. Is that okay? My higher power, whose divine wisdom flows through me to bring these messages to you. And last but not least, I want to thank you, my listener, so much for listening in. If you'd like to join the podcast support team, some ways you can do so are by rating and reviewing the podcast, sharing it with everyone you know, and, if possible, making a financial contribution through the link in the show notes so that you too can be part of the team elevating this podcast and making it possible to bring to other listeners like you. I'm sending you so much love, and we will be together again soon.